Oh yeah, we're back to everyone's favorite stream. Yes, this is much better than ridiculous city skylines and Kerbal Space Program. We should just turn the channel into a code channel because it's so much more exciting than video games. No? Okay, fine. Fine. Jeez, calm down. I won't. Okay, so it's been a while, and that's mostly because the amount of work I've done on the engine of this game is ridiculous. So for like a month, I couldn't even play it without getting 100 compile errors. I'm changing so much stuff in the name of, we'll call it science, but just improvement. And there's the beautiful garbage collector lag spike I've got to get rid of now. It's a constant battle, this game. It's never going to leave me alone. Is there something wrong with my time? Where's the sun? You see, it's not even my game that's having these performance spikes. It's Unity itself doesn't like me right now. I think I've done something to make it angry. I don't know if I said something about it that it didn't think was very funny or what, but it's really mad, and I think it's mostly because of the amount of RAM I'm using. I don't think they are used to someone creating so many game objects and stuff. Even though I've optimized it rather well, I think I've hit the upper limit. Even with 32 gigabytes of RAM, I don't think Unity is able to use all of it, and I don't think that the C# virtual machine wants to use that much either. So I think what I'm going to have to do is implement proper levels of detail, which is actually at the top of my list of things to do after I get what's done here. And then that should bring... Well, let me just explain. It's much easier if I explain these things using very sophisticated methods such as paint. So let's say you're playing Project Vooperia. We'll do this two-dimensionally because it's way simpler. So if we do this two-dimensionally, let's say we've got this cube, and this is the game world, right? So this is everything the player can see. So we split it up into chunks so that we can load it a little bit at a time. That's the most common way to do it in games. Sometimes you'll see octrees used. I'm actually going to design a hybrid system using both chunks and octrees because I see the benefits of both. And that hybrid system is actually going to be pretty cool if I can pull it off correctly. So let's say we've got our grid here of chunks. Now, let's count how many chunks we've got here. This should be pretty simple math. 8 squared, 64. So we've got 64 chunks here. So the question is, how do we do the same amount without making 64 chunks? Well, there's actually a strategy to this. What we can do instead of those 64 chunks is, because we can only see so much of things far away anyways, we only make the inner chunks full detail. And this is called levels of detail. So we only make the inner chunks full detail. So they're small, and each block is 1 meter. And then the blocks neighboring, the chunks neighboring that are double half the detail, or technically a quarter or an eighth because it's three-dimensional. But the point is, now, let's see, that's right here, that's 2, 4, 6 chunks across. Shoot, I'm not gonna be able to make this line up perfectly with the example I just did. Well, let's even go bigger. Let's make some levels of detail here that go even big. That's not actually perfect, but it's good enough for me. So this goes even further than the other example. You can see more, and we'll say that this is it. So each cube is much bigger than the one last, and if the player was right here, he wouldn't be able to see the little details this far away anyways, so it's okay, it doesn't look weird. But instead of those 64 chunks we had originally, now it's what? 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's quite the drop. That's a massive drop, and it only gets bigger as you extend it outwards. It's actually at the point where if I were to extend this outward long enough, I could generate an entire planet, and it would still be faster than the current system, which generates to like 1 mile away. Yes. I'm not exaggerating that. It would be just as fast to render a planet as it would be to render what I currently have. Which is why it's so important that I get this working correctly, because this is basically how I figure out how the rest of the game is going to work. Everything depends on it. So let's go ahead and start. Just choosing random. There we go. Oh, that's a good song for starting. So the first thing I have to do is last time, well, previously I was working on, I redid the atlas, so the way textures are loaded is slightly changed now. Oh boy, so much has changed there. I'd love to get through all the details with you guys. Does that actually work yet? Oh boy, I've went in so many different directions. There are so many things I need to get working. But today we're going to focus on that thing that's causing us to crash, which is the amount of memory we're using is way too high. So now it's time to separate out chunks. Chunks are going to hold terrain, grids are going to hold blocks, so chunks are no longer going to handle blocks. And fluids are going to... Actually, fluids is an interesting question. Do we continue containing fluids inside of the chunk, or I think we made it, I think I can make it so that fluids extend terrain, but is that necessary? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, I think I can actually do this in a way that makes sense. But I'm gonna make a whole lot of my code angry. Yeah, so before we do that, let's change the things backing it up. So before we make the huge changes, let's make sure everything that depends on that is changed. So first we're gonna have to look at fluids and change how they work. We want fluids to kind of be the same as terrain, but slightly different. Which I know sounds absolutely ridiculous, but you know, sometimes we gotta do some strange things to make things work. So, terrain is an inventory object, which means it can go into the inventory and be used and stuff. That's my little solution to making it so that we have some common stuff between blocks and terrain and stuff. I just want to check and see, so if it's an inventory object, it's going to need a whole lot of stuff. And it's also going to, if it's a terrain, it's going to have to extend all this stuff. I just want to make sure it's not going to extend anything absolutely stupid. That makes sense, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess all that makes sense for it to extend, and this is the same. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change how fluids work, because they have enough in common with terrain that it makes sense, instead of making it completely separate, to make it technically the same. Inheritance. This is why we use inheritance. So let's go ahead and do that. Fluid type, fluid types. So a fluid type is going to now extend from, hello Capricorn, how's it going? Thank you for the super chat. So fluid type is now going to extend terrain type. This is such a hacky way to go about it, but I think this is actually going to work well. Yeah, let's bring this over here. I don't think I actually need to do any of this now, because that's all the same. This should be uppercase anyways. Thanks again, Capricorn. Oh, shoot. There we go. that's better. Ah, I did it all over the place. How dare I? Let's do this properly, though, so that we don't have errors everywhere. Rename, uppercase, save, and for all of these, really, jeez. Method name should be uppercase. This is the result of typing code very quickly and making mistakes, which really only affect the readability, but we want this to be correct so that I don't get confused in the future. There we go. Now those are all capital. In fields are lowercase. These both need to be changed, though. Okay, there we go. All the unnecessary stuff set up. That's all looking pretty good. So terrain types have all of these things, which isn't quite as important as it. Potatoes, obviously. Potatoes are the base of all greatness. Just the beautiful RAM being used. It's sad, but I keep that in the side just to see how my game is running. I want to make sure that what I actually do does, in fact, decrease the amount it's using. Okay, so fluid type extends from this now. Was there anything we really need to change? Not really. Not at all. I don't think so. I think this looks pretty good. What I do know, though, is that we've got water, which is going to have quite a few changes, because currently it has absolutely nothing in there, so it's just going to be everything default. But I don't care about that right now. I could honestly... Oh, and this is already there. Actually, we're going to do public override string name, because we wanted to say unspecified liquid instead of unspecified terrain. That's something that actually makes sense. Okay. Could just make all of these abstract as well. I may do that another time because it makes more sense, but that takes a lot of effort. Okay, so ignoring all of my mental confusion and doubting what I'm doing, now we just have to make fluid extend from terrain. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I was expecting that. Okay. So this is already there. This is already there. This is already there. This is already there. These things are already dealt with. This is already there. This is all already there. Beautiful. Okay. And now it's going to tell me to add things, though. Because we need a constructor. Which we will set up. If we look at the terrain constructor. Which we'll just copy here. Oh, it's just a terrain type and a byte. Then a terrain type and a float. Okay. Public. Fluid. Terrain type. Shoot. I guess that's technically right. This is where things get a bit confusing, because I don't want you to be able to make a terrain with a fluid with a terrain type, but a fluid type is technically just a special terrain type, so we'll deal with that in a second. then we're just gonna copy the base here. So what this basically says is that we're just copying what it does over there. Is it not gonna complain if I give it a different one? And then just don't extend the base. That'd be nice. Yeah, that's what I thought. Actually, because that... Nope, that works. That does actually work. That is technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Okay, so if that's right, then we should be able to, technically, get rid of fluids in the chunk, which saves up quite a bit of memory. We can do some quick calculations. So a fluid is, let's see, how many bytes of memory is a fluid? That's a little bit too big for a calculator. So it's 32 bytes. Although, no, it's a byte. So it's a byte for the weight, and then it's 4 bytes for the type, so it's 5 bytes. And then there's 16 times 16 times 16 in a chunk, and then there's 32 by 32 by 32 chunks, which means that by getting rid of this, we could potentially, in perfect conditions, save 671 megabytes of RAM. Now, honestly, half of it isn't actually, well, 90% of it isn't fluid, but at the very least, it's still going to take up null spaces, and those are still going to be 4 bytes each. Point being, it's going to save a lot of RAM. It gets a lot of stuff that the garbage collector has to keep track of too. Generally, less things for your computer to keep track of is faster. Generally. And by that I mean, if it goes the other way, then it's really confusing. So this is going to complain now, isn't it? Why? Fluid should have that. Fluid should... Oh, yeah. Fluid type is going to be fluid types dot water, and then what's the weight gonna be? We'll just put it at 255, which is completely full. There we go. Good, that one's solved. There's one error down. Okay, so this one says it doesn't have a definition for get weight, which is weird because it definitely should. I will bet you it's because terrain doesn't have... Oh, okay, I see. That's never gonna change. It's because I changed it to make more sense. There we go. There we go. Beautiful. Because now it's a property instead of a method. And same thing here. Those changes also mean we can get rid of this completely anyways. We can make the fluid get built in the same way as everything else. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Let's go into our transvoxel code. This is currently super optimized, so I think what I'm going to do is actually make a separate transvoxel code just for liquids, because I don't think I can get much. I think it'll go slower if I don't do that. I think I'm better off. Which is sad, but I think that's what I've got to do. You see, when it comes to my schedule, I threw things off by 1 day. So, if I look at my video uploads, let's see. Videos, uploads. Where's my uploads? My video feed. Yeah, so yesterday was supposed to be Kerbal Space Program, but I skipped it for City Skylines. So the City Skylines came a day early, which means that tomorrow's gonna be Kerbal Space Program. It's just slightly flipped. It's okay. Don't worry. It's literally that I got the days wrong. There's no real reasoning behind it. Sorry. Look, at least I'm uploading every day now. It's quite the battle. Okay, so going back to what we were actually doing. Wow, something that isn't actually used. This is the home of a whole lot of optimization and copy and paste. But it works well enough that I'm willing to use it twice. Oh, you know what? I could just put... I'm sending the mesh data in. All I'd have to do is just send in a single boolean that says whether or not it's fluid, which I'll admit is slightly annoying, but that's better than the alternative. I need to think about this for a moment. Okay, so I think... Oh, what do I want to do? This is one of those cases where I have a few choices of how I go about it, but I don't know if it's a good idea. Because I want my logic in here to actually be different as well. Yeah, we're gonna have two separate classes. That just means a lot more work, because if I improve one, I have to go back and improve the other one as well. But I do understand that in the long run, it's gonna pay off to not be lazy. So we're gonna make a separate transvoxel over here for fluids. How nice. It's going to look pretty darn similar, and by that I mean almost exactly the same. Bam. But we're gonna change it up a bit in a second. First off, we have to go over to our mesh data, because it's gonna need a copy of this. And where's our transvoxel? We can get rid of this now. That's one thing down. And I can actually rebrand this transvoxel. How nice. And we can do transvoxel fluid transvoxel Fluid equals new transvoxel. Fluid. Very nice. Okay. Very, very fluid. I think that's all set. There's a slight amount of guesswork involved here. This was optimized like heck. This was as well, question mark? Oh, no, it's not. Because I'm doing things differently there. This should actually be pretty similar now. So we've got colors in normals, but we don't need UVs, which is good. That's always nice. I feel like I'm wrong though, because I'm sending the information through. Oh no, that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. And the way I'm doing it right now allows 255 different types of terrain, which I don't think I'm ever going to run into an issue with that. I think that's a feasible limit. I don't know of any games that have more than 255 types of terrain, and I'm allowing for them to have variants as well. So it's really painful when you put limitations on something because you worry that you're gonna have to change it in the future. But even if I think about Minecraft, I can't think about the world being generated by over 255 different things. Like ores and everything included, there's like 20. And a lot of those are pretty useless. So when it comes to it, 255 is going to be plenty of stuff, and I'd explain more on why this is a problem, but I don't want to get too off track here. So we're going to kill UVs. We're going to go ahead and add... First off, we're going to rename these in a second, but yeah, we'll rename these because those are T, so these will be F. F for fluid, T for terrain. So now we're going to have... Also, they don't need to be nearly as big. Like, the amount of memory we're using up is insufferable. Then we're gonna want public list. I don't know. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Calm down, me. A list of vector 3s for F normals equals new list vector 3. That's gonna hold 1024. Public list color T colors equals new list color. There we go. I think that's good. Oh, F colors, not T colors. Okay. So there's a few things we have to do now. We have to remove all of our references to the old stuff, of course. And we have to add stuff for the new things to get cleared out. We don't want to leave anything behind when we delete stuff. Okay, that's looking good. I think that's everything that's necessary. Let's move this where it makes sense to be. I don't know why I set fluid tries to 0 twice, but that's not necessary. And recycled, that's right. Okay, so this is where things change. This should look a whole lot like this now. New mesh, set vertices to the vertices, set the UVs. We don't need to do that anymore. There should always be triangles if there's vertices. We don't need to do that anymore because we're doing it ourselves. Instead, we do fluid mesh dot set normals, and then we go ahead and put the normals in. F normals, and then fluid mesh dot set colors. F colors. Okay. Good. That's great. Except we still have the issue of this is going to make everything we have angry. And before I chicken out, I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to force myself to go through this because it's very important that I do. Marching Cubes algorithm, you have served me very well. But there is no need for you anymore. We now have a much superior algorithm. It's faster. It has more use. I need to convert everything over to the one that makes more sense. That doesn't mean it's gonna work, though. There's a few things we have to do ahead of time. Like, get rid of that and change this to data. That's gonna be data.trans voxel fluid .gen LOD cell. And it's gonna be for the chunk, and the data is going to be data once again. Looking good. So it looks like yeah, that looks good. I cannot mod you. I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat. But if I threw mods at everything, everyone who super chatted me, we would have serious issues. Just the amount of mods we would have is insufferable. I can barely keep Silly under control. Okay, so jumping back to transvoxel fluid, we have to now make this, instead of working with terrain, work with fluid. Wow, who would have thunk? Okay, so oh, that's a really good point. That's a really good point, isn't it? Okay, so we have to change both. Things get more complicated. I know Rasputin. Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. Yeah. I know Rasputin. 10 out of 10. Okay. So our issue here is going to be that when we get the value... Shoot! Shoot! This is going to be a lot of work. I was not thinking about the amount of work this is gonna be. Oh, I'm dying on the inside now. That's complicated. Okay. How did I do this? The corner data, I'm getting the render weight of the corner position. The issue is that I have to get the weight of that. I see how to fix this. Aha! Success. Go to the chunk, go to where we do that. Thank God I thought I had a slight amount. Okay, where is get render weight? Instead, we're gonna rename this to get terrain render weight. And we do have a reason for that. We're also gonna set it to standard naming conventions, which say start it with a capital. Same with this. Jeez. Wow, that one's correct and this one isn't. Went all over the place. Why isn't it just letting me? Come on, rename. There we go. Okay, so this has to be modified to only return 100 if it's Oh, I hate this. I hate this. I did some dumb stuff. In the name of looking fancy. Okay. If t equals null, return that. Otherwise, return that. Yeah, that makes sense. Except I can't do it in that fancy one line anymore. Okay, if t equals null, return local vars dot empty. What is empty? It's a constant negative 128. Okay, and then if t equals, actually I can do if t equals null or t is fluid. Why did it do transform? That's just silly. There we go. Then return empty. Otherwise, return t.get render weight. Great. That should work. So we're gonna need a separate thing, which is going to say get fluid render weight, which means that we're gonna need to get fluid, which means that we have to get rid of the block stuff because the block stuff isn't needed anymore, which means let's just kill blocks altogether. And fluids. Okay, this is gonna be really painful. I'm literally looking away from the screen right now. Sometimes to go a step forward, you need to take 20 steps backwards. And that's what I just did. Oh my. This is really painful. I'm not gonna lie. This is a lot of stuff that's just going to be absolutely ripped apart. Okay, so now it's generate terrain mesh because it's only generating the terrain mesh. Technically the fluid as well, but fluid is technically terrain here. Okay, which means, once again, we don't have to pass along as much stuff, which is always nice. It's less data, it'll go faster, but it's still kind of painful to get rid of all this stuff. There is no reason to have a separate thing for this now. So let's move this into... So there's no real reason to have any of this separately, is there? Where do I say build data? Oh, no, it's because I'm running it in a separate... Okay, that makes sense. So we're going to rename this too, because the name doesn't really make much sense. Okay, that makes sense. So now instead of build data, we're gonna say... Shoot. Run trans voxel mesh gen. Sounds good. You know what? That sounds pretty fancy. I'm gonna go with that. Okay, so now that we've renamed that, that gets rid of that problem. All those errors are gone temporarily. And it didn't resolve that. Thank you. There we go. All good. Let's see the errors now. Where are they? It's probably going to be in like get block because that's no longer... Get fluid isn't any longer needed. Okay, set block no longer needed. That's going to be redone. It's a lot of code to get rid of, I'm going to be honest. Very painful. It's a lot of time, effort, getting rid of stupid things like this, which were only made to make things slightly more hacky. This preload block, none of this is necessary anymore. I don't think so, at least. No, because the decorate loop won't even work now. Jeez, I feel like I'm getting rid of literally everything. Update block neighbors, that's not necessary anymore, is it? That's something important that I can't get rid of, even though it's disgusting. That's good, that's good, that's good. That's good, that's all good. Notify neighbor, block change. Ah, shoot. I think that really all we have to do is rename this to notify neighbor, terrain change, because the code's not really going to change there. And then we just rename this as well. Notify terrain change. There we go. Looking good. And that is, I think, yeah. That is every single piece of code referring to blocks. Deaded. Oh, except for get block. Yep, that's gonna be one. And send delayed block update. And schedule block update. Is that it? Are we done now? That was pretty painful. I'm gonna admit. That was not fun. Okay, now let's go up here and see if there's any variables that are still referring to blocks. Contains blocks. No, you're not responsible for that anymore. Let's see. I see another way to improve this. If I did a single mesh, oh, that would be so complicated, but that would be so nice. Oh man. I did 2 passes. Oh boy. You know, I'm not gonna worry about that yet. I'm just gonna get the game to, like, run again before I worry about that. I'm gonna be honest. If I go off and do too much stuff at the same time, it'll take me 8 years to figure out where I broke something. At least right now I know the general things I've done. So I have a good idea on what I could have broken. And now, ready? Let's see. I'm gonna guess 20 errors. Oh. After I get rid of this stupid one. 20 errors? I'm saying about 20. 14. That wasn't bad. Okay, 14. If it was like 98, I've had like over 2,000 before from changing something. But 14, I can live with. Okay, so... what we're gonna do is, because this technically should exist, but the implementation was wrong. Charm is a Dotson. The game will probably be like $5–10. I don't want it to be anything ridiculous. Let's go down to get terrain. So here's my sneaky solution. It's literally to steal everything from terrain. Okay, ready for this? Public. Fluid. Get fluid. I know, really exciting. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to start with vector 3i position. Start with that one, and then we're gonna return. For the sake of speed, I should probably just do that. That's annoying. Terrain t equals. Then we copy this from here. If t is fluid, return t. Oh, return fluid t, because we know it's a fluid now. Else, return literally nothing. Okay, now option number 2 is if you literally give it an X, Y, and Z. I feel like I should really just not overcomplicate this. Premature optimization is the root of all evil. Okay, public fluid get fluid int x int y int z. We're gonna do this, so we're gonna do x, y, and z. And then for this, instead of doing that, we're just going to have it piggyback that, just because it's a cleaner way to write it. Why are you complaining? Oh, return. Yes, we're returning that. There we go. So now that exists, and now we got to do set fluid. Public void set fluid vector 3i position. Oh, am I starting with the type? Okay. Fluid vector 3i position. And then we're gonna have another one, public void set fluid, and this one's gonna have fluid int x int y z. This one's gonna be the one you actually use. This one's just gonna kind of call this one just to make it easier. You may be asking, how does making it more complicated make it easier? It just makes me able to type a little bit less in the future. I'm gonna be honest, not the most fancy reason, but it's a reason nonetheless. Why are you complaining? Oh, that's probably important. There we go. And now to set the fluid, what we're really gonna do is if fluid is... Oh, we already know that the fluid is a fluid. Oh, then we can literally just... Wow. Okay, that's convenient. And we just pass this along again. Ah, it's a lot of passing on. Oh, shoot. Why am I writing int? But we probably want this to be false. So we have to add that one thing. Okay, so we've just made things go in like a spiral of doom. But that's okay. I'm used to that, I guess. We may have special stuff here for set fluid in the future. Not right now. I don't see any necessity to do that. Let's see if the same places are complaining anymore. Oh, well, yeah, they are, because I made it uppercase and it was lowercase before. Oh no, the horrors. Oh shoot, I don't know what that last true was. I'm gonna assume it was stupid. Yeah. No, we don't want that. That's not a thing we want to do. Shoot. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so now that that's all set, let's see if that goes down. Now it's 12. It's gonna complain because get block and set block and all the blocks. No! I don't like that. That is not fun. Great. No, I'm gonna need like 18 different things to make this work. This is one of the areas where this gets really messy. Shoot. That's annoying. Let's change this over to terrain for the time being. Alright, you know what? do this the smart way. Rename. Yep, this is gonna be really painful. Step 1 done. Wow, that wasn't so bad. Let's continue. Float time equals terrain. Dot type dot get strength. Bam. Terrain dot type dot is breakable without tool. See, this isn't that bad. And then we just do dot type dot get harvest tool. Once again, pretty fancy. Just copy this over here. I guess that wasn't so bad. Slight modifications. Nothing horrible. Did I stupidly? Yeah, I did. Okay, that's fine. Terrain. Oh, you know what? That's just gonna be null if I broke it. Null. None of those are important. Except for that. That's important. Good. Looking great. Looking fantastic. One down. Of course, the play script is also going to be angry. If I change the break script, then the play script also has to be angry. Okay, I think that's gonna be enough for me. At least for now. There's quite a bit of work to be done when it comes to overhauling all this trash. This all needs to be optimized a lot. And because of that, it's going to be a lot of looking through code, changing things slightly. It's going to be annoying. But, you know what? We're getting there. We are getting there. I will see you all next time. Bye.